So today for class, you have already done the warm-up on the examples of composites, and we are going to continue the notes for examples of composites, and you will complete a worksheet that is dedicated on the examples in this video. So if you open up your notes, last class we started to talk about fiber reinforced polymers. So we had talked about carbon reinforced polymers, and we left off at glass reinforced plastics. And polymers is another word for plastics. I know a lot of people had that question on the worksheet from last class, but we did a whole unit on polymers, and they are just examples of different plastics. So then we will go into thermoplastic composites, metal matrix composites, and ceramic matrix composites today. So we already covered this stuff in the last video, but we will go to glass reinforced plastics right now. So some other composites are glass reinforced plastics, and they are made of a polymer or a plastic matrix reinforced with fibers of glass. So an example that is specific that we will talk about at the end of this video is fiberglass. And you've probably heard that word before, used in different materials that are for cars, probably different, like sporting equipment are made from fiberglass sometimes. So you probably have heard this term before. The next example are thermoplastic composites. These thermoplastic composites are from structural polymers, and they have a thermoplastic matrix. And what really thermoplastic means is that it is formed with different temperatures, and you can weld these thermoplastics into different kind of structures that you need, and once they cool they will be hardened, but you can also heat them really down so they can be recyclable. So one of our chapters that we talked about before is recycling. So these thermoplastic composites are recyclable because they are made from different types of thermoplastic materials. So you can melt them down after you are done, and they can be reused. So these are coming more and more about in different material uses, and they are becoming more popular for things like aerospace and automobile industries. Another example, this isn't an example of a fiber reinforced polymer, but it is just a fiber reinforced composite. So this is an example of a fiber reinforced composite. It is called a metal matrix composite. And this is a composite material with a metal matrix, which is right in the name. So you can remember that easily just by reading the name. And then they can have different reinforcements. So metal matrix composites always have to have a metal matrix, but they can have multiple different reinforcements that are paired with that metal. So generally reinforcements in this case are either going to be other metals, so it will be an alloy, or it can be a metal and ceramics, or metal and organic compounds like carbon. And these reinforcements, they choose them accordingly to have good properties such as wear resistance, a friction coefficient, or thermal conductivity. You'll actually work probably with these friction coefficients next year in physics. You'll probably do work on the mechanics of different materials. So there is such thing as a metal matrix and then a ceramic matrix. Some specific examples of a metal matrix, though, you do not need to write this in your notes. They are used or they're used in the prototyping for space shuttle, commercial airliners, electronic substrates, bicycles, automobiles, golf clubs, and a variety of other applications. And most of the metal matrix composites are made from aluminum, but there are now growing numbers of applications required for superalloys, titanium, copper, magnesium, and iron to be used in this metal matrix composites. So, like I said, you don't need to write this down, but these are just some examples of materials that you might see that are made from metal matrix and just what metals they would use as the matrix. So the next type of composite or fiber reinforced composites are ceramics matrix composites. So ceramic matrix composite will have a ceramic matrix, and the fibers can consist of other ceramics, carbon, or carbon fibers. So I would put this down for the thing in your notes. And then I will give you some examples of ceramic matrix composites. So the list, just like the metal matrix composites, is growing in ceramic matrix composites also. So these are used in energy and power defense, aerospace, electrical industries, and electronic industries also. So these can even go down to the materials in your phone. Could have ceramic matrix composites in your phone, in your computer, and other electronics you may use. So like I said at the beginning of the glass reinforced plastic, this is an example of one of those composites, fiberglass. So fiberglass is made from plastic that has been reinforced by filaments or fibers of glass. And these filaments can either be bundled together, woven into a mat, or they are sometimes cut up into shorter lengths, which are randomly oriented in the plastic matrix. So some on this picture, there are some that are cut up into small pieces or woven into a mat. And I will give you uses or a specific example of industries that use fiberglass on the next slide. I think I put a lot of examples of different industries and also like specific examples. So some specific examples of fiberglass would be bows used for bows and arrows, pole vaulting poles, handles for hammers, axes, and other different equipment. Traffic lights are made with some fiberglass. Ship hulls, rowing shells, and oars, so the things that you use to row in a canoe with. Also, some of the canoes or kayaks are made of fiberglass also. Water pipes, orthopedic casts that you might have on if you break a bone. Surfboards can be made of fiberglass. The tent poles that you put in on a tent are made from fiberglass. Different equipment like kayaks, carts, gliders, flat roofs are made from fiberglass. A lot of auto body parts and entire auto bodies can be made from this fiberglass. And then some other things are drum sets. You might have one at home if you play the drums, and those are made from fiberglass, which is a composite of glass and plastic. So one of the last slides for this section is what is most recent in the composite use. So more recently, researchers have also begun to actively include robotics into composites, which is kind of different from multiple materials, but the robotics have multiple things or kind of. So, most recently in composites, we are now seeing the use of multiple materials to combine sensing, actuation, and different computer programs into a material. And these materials are robotic materials. So, robotic materials are composite materials that combine the sensing, actuation, computation, and communication in a repeatable pattern. So, they're considered to be composites because they have a man made three dimensional periodic cellular architecture designed to produce an optimized combination not available in nature. So, multiple items are put together and different programs are put together to create this robotics that is not able to be made by itself. So, and these robotics are used to complete tasks quicker, not have man-made labor be that time consuming. It can be done really quickly by robotics. And other different pros can be that you don't have to pay a robot. That robot doesn't have to take a break. So robots are being brought out into more and more things, different industries to make things quicker. And also, you're going to see on the worksheet that you are going to do, robots are considered a composite, but are also used widely in creating composites. So it is easier and quicker for a robot to make a composite than a human to make a composite. So you will see that in the worksheet. You're going to read an article just on how it is better for a robot to make a composite, but you also now know that a robot is a composite. So the next day, we will talk about how to make a composite, and then we will continue with the pros and cons of composites. That will finish out with around 5 classes left. We'll do the study guide, the review game, we'll have a test, and then we'll have 2 classes left in the year that we're going to do a little activity on all of the different materials we learned in this class as a whole. So if you have any questions on the worksheet, let me know. If not, I will see you next class.